Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, welcome. Today we are on the Senada Viper Plus. And I'm pretty excited about this bike because it's named after one of my favorite childhood cars, the Viper, the Dodge Viper. I even used to watch the TV show back in the day.
A lone fight for justice. Viper is taking back the streets.
Leave a comment below if you guys used to watch that show. But today we're going to be taking out the Senada
Viper
Plus out on all the tests. The hill climb test, the top speed test, the 0 to 20 tests, the brake tests, all the tests. And together we're going to find out if you should be looking at buying this bike, the Senada Viper Plus.
Viper.
Can you tell I really just like saying the word Viper? And the Senada Viper Plus is a full suspension, torque sensing, full size, fat tired e-bike. And it is a pretty cool looking bike. It has a very nice looking, almost like a snakeskin like paint job. And we're going to find out today if this is a bike worth buying, if you should be looking at the Senada Viper Plus.
My brother-in-law, Black Pearl Media, was over at Lime Rock Park filming a racing and drifting event called Grid Life. He borrowed the Senada Viper Plus because every year at the end of the event, they do something really cool where they allow you to ride around on the actual racetrack with everyone else. Stay tuned for some of that footage later in today's video.
Without further ado, we're going to start off with our 0 to 20 test. We're on a full fresh charge, bringing up to pedal assist 5, throttle only, 0 to 20. Here we go, 3, 2, 1, boom. Pretty decent start off the line. 20. All right. And it seems like the speedometer is more or less spot on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to our main hill climb test. Not too steep, but it is a long hill, so we can really gauge the motor performance from an e-bike. Doesn't take a lot of power to go fast on flat ground, but it does take a lot more to finish this hill at a good time. Here we go, without further ado. Main hill climb test, 3, 2, 1, boom. Alright, pretty decent start. If you guys like content like this, please feel free to subscribe to the channel if I've earned your subscription. Like the video if you like it, smash that like button. Follow me on social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have 2 Facebook groups, E-Bike Addicts and High Speed E-Bikes, 40 miles an hour and up. And guys, we are cruising. We're hitting 20 miles an hour on the GPS. Boom, crossing over the finish line. All right. And as always, we're going to take a look at our free spinning wheel speed. Looks like it says we're at 32. The speedometer might be 1 mile an hour slower than GPS. Let's see how close we can get to the free spinning wheel RPM going down this moderate hill. We're gonna pedal up to about 30 maybe and see where we top off. All right, no more pedaling. All right, look at that, 31 miles an hour down this hill. GPS is showing 34. All right, so there is a little bit of a difference in the GPS speed and the speedometer accuracy. And we're also going to change the wheel size right now. And the way you do that is you hold the plus and minus buttons. You get to the P settings. Currently it's set to 26. So I'll bring that up maybe to 27 and see if that changes the speedometer and makes it more accurate. Let's see. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. We'll keep messing with it. Going up, threading the needle. Let's see how these handlebars do. Not too bad, not too wide, not too narrow, just right. Yeah, it looks like the speedometer is better. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at our steep hill climb test. As always, we're going to stop at the line and then try and climb this hill, throttle only, and see where the slowest GPS speed is. Here we go. See if we can even do it. 9, 8. All right. Looks like we got it, guys. Decent amount of power. Oh, 7. Never mind. We're still doing great though. 7 miles an hour. That was the slowest speed going up that hill, so we did it. Not too bad. Let's say this is a medium-powered e-bike. Let's turn it around. 20-mile-an-hour brake test. Ooh. That was interesting. The front was kind of jumping up and down a bit. The back did lock up. These are, by the way, 160-millimeter rotors. Even though they are hydraulic disc brakes, they're dual piston with 160-millimeter rotor. So stopping distance isn't the greatest. I would definitely like to see at least a 180-millimeter rotor up front. But it is what it is. Moving on. Alright guys, we are at our top speed testing site. What we're going to do is pedal up to about 25 miles an hour and then see where the throttle takes us. Here we go. Pedaling hard. Alright. GPS is showing 28, 29. Alright. We're hitting 30. Nice. It's like the speedometer is off by 1 mile an hour still. We can change that. Back down to 29. Alright, we hit 30 going one way. Let's see where we top off going the other way. 28. We hit 30 again. 31. Alright. 31. Okay. We're holding 31. Guys, that is respectable for a 48-volt e-bike. Most of these 48-volt e-bikes just barely touch 28. Sometimes they can't even do that. And this one actually hits 31, but we'll say top speed is 30. We always take the average of both runs to take elevation and wind changes into account. And by the way, I am about 195 pounds. I have about a 10-pound filming backpack on me. Front tire 20 psi, back tire 25. Temperature right now is probably 75 degrees Fahrenheit. We're going to bring the wheel size up 1 more inch to see if we can get that speedometer accurate. So we brought the wheel size up to 28. Let's see if that made it better. Yeah, it looks like we're pretty much on point now. Nice. All right. Moving on to off-road test number 1. And we're starting off on our grassy area. I do feel that rear suspension working. I feel the front working as well. And we are just powering through this field. No problem. The fat tires obviously smooth out the smaller bumps. And the shocks help with the bigger stuff. So overall, you do get a fairly smooth riding experience with this bike. Going over this log. No problems. Yeah, we got some big bumps in this particular part right here. Like coming up. I hear some rattles from this bike, but nothing too major. And we're just throttling. Some interesting bumps are here. Yeah, feels pretty solid, guys. We're not going to do any kind of crazy off-roading or jumping with this bike, because more than likely, this is the most you guys are going to do with a bike like this. Ultimately, these are all budget parts. And so, don't expect this thing to survive big drops and big jumps. But for stuff like that, should be able to do it, no problem. I hear that chain slapping around a bit. No big deal, though. Let's see if we can pull over. I want to see what is rattling. Oh, I made this thing dirty. You know what I think is rattling? Is this fender right here. This rear fender. It doesn't have, yeah, it's definitely the rear fender. It doesn't have all that much support just when it's bolted down to this area right here. As you can tell, there's quite a bit of movement right there, so I guess you could, in theory, throw some kind of zip tie up to the rear rack, but you shouldn't have to. You shouldn't have to do that. It should stay, it should be able to support itself with its own mounting mechanism, but guys, it is what it is. And I did tighten those bolts down a lot, so I know that it's not my assembly that's causing the issue. But overall, this bike feels decently solid. And besides that one minor fender issue, this feels pretty good. We're going to head on over to our grassy field area and continue on the off-road testing. Ghost pedaling for this bike isn't really an issue. I'm at almost 30 miles an hour, and I've got lots of pedal feel. So ghost pedaling won't be an issue with this bike, thankfully. They give you a decently sized front chainring and good gearing in the back. So unless you're taking this bike up to speeds that are gravity assisted, going downhill well past what the motor can do, pedaling is going to feel great with this bike. Riding around on the sidewalks, this has normal bicycle geometry, so you'll get less stink eye looks from the Karens of the world being on this versus a moped style e-bike. Taking these small, tighter turns feels nice. Even though this is a full-size bike, it is on the lighter side. So I really do appreciate that. Some of these very fast e-bikes, if you can even call them that, are insanely heavy. Something that's never truly conveyed through these videos is the weight of very fast e-bikes, because they have to have larger, heavier components, like a bigger battery, bigger motor, bigger everything, and they end up being so heavy and cumbersome, and you only realize it until you buy it and you have it and you realize, oh, yeah, I can go fast, but damn, this thing is heavy. And thankfully, this bike is a nice balance. It's pretty fast for a 48-volt e-bike, and I feel as if it's on the lighter side, and it feels nice and maneuverable, more so than some of the bigger, heavier e-bikes that are the same size as this. Crossing over and going down. Oh, this is tall grass today. They gotta mow this. Let's pull over for a second and take a look at the specs and components of the Senada Viper Plus. Starting off at the top, we've got these rubberized ergonomic handlebar grips, DY Island hydraulic brake levers that are extra long, and they have this hole at the end. I have no idea what this hole would be used for. I've never seen this before. You guys let me know in the comments below, what are those holes for at the end of the handlebar brake lever? Down here we've got the headlight switch and a horn button, which is very loud. Very simple and easy to use control panel, and a simple and easy to read display. And we're not going to go over the display settings in today's video because there isn't really anything to adjust in here besides the wheel size to make the speedometer a little bit more accurate. This bike came to me fully unlocked. I tried the wheel size trick to get it to go even faster, and it didn't help. So you guys are gonna get this bike fully unlocked and as fast as it can go straight out of the box. So there's not much you can adjust in the display settings. And here we've got the usual Mickey Mouse style shifter. And I like these shifters because with one push, I can shift all the way down into first gear. And you can't do that with trigger shifters. I also like this type of shifter because when you have a twist throttle, it stays out of the way. I can fully articulate the twist throttle without having any paddles sticking out into the handlebar grip. This is my favorite setup for a half twist throttle and shifter. Moving on down, we've got some neat and tidy cable management. Front headlight looks pretty good, and it is turned on at the push of one button. The rear taillight also turns on at the push of the same button. And when you hit the brake, the taillight does turn on. Here's what it looks like when the taillight is off and you hit the brake. Basic suspension fork with preload and lockout adjustment. For fenders, we have plastic fenders in the front and in the rear. Tires are basic Chow-Yang 26x4-inch knobbies. This bike comes in a bunch of different colors. I do love the color of these wheels. The green color really does pop, especially in the sunlight. This bike has hydraulic disc brakes with 160mm rotors. I would have at least liked to see a 180 up front. And the back also comes with the same exact setup. Moving on down, look at the paint job on this frame. This is one of my favorite parts about this bike, the black with the neon green. I am a sucker for that color combo. I love the paint job on this bike. I think it's a nice looking bike overall. The green wheel color plus this lime green on the frame, this lime green snakeskin pattern on the Senada Viper Plus. I think it looks awesome. And that color combination does continue on the battery. And speaking of battery, this is a 48-volt, 20-amp-hour battery. Very simple to lock and unlock using this keyhole right here. Once you unlock it, you can slide this whole battery out. The controller sits back here in this plastic box. Although it is protected and more water resistant, there is no airflow going through this controller box. So hopefully the amperage of the controller is low enough so that it doesn't overheat, because this box is completely sealed up and not getting any kind of cooling at all. The rear suspension on this bike is a GSX 200 shock made by Go SUXE. Never heard of this brand before, and it is more on the budget side of suspension parts. It doesn't have that much travel, but it does work. Moving on to the back, as you can see, this is a 1000 watt nominal rated geared hub motor, and the controller will tell how much power to take from the battery and send into the motor. And I'll put up on the screen what the peak wattage of this motor will get to at the nominal 48 volts. The rear rack on this bike is on the thinner side. It doesn't look like it can support a whole lot of weight. Honestly, some of you guys might just want to go without this rack entirely, although then I don't know where you would mount the rear tail light. And if you guys can tell right here, the rack is actually in the way of the seat being able to go all the way down. This is actually the lowest point of the seat. I still have another maybe ½ inch or so left. So the rack does interfere a tiny bit with the movement of the seat. Seat comfort on this bike is pretty good. Decently wide and decently squishy seat. This bike has a 7-speed transmission and a Shimano Tourney TZ derailleur with a derailleur guard. We also get a fairly large chainring up front, which is going to help with that high-speed gearing. If you guys saw me earlier, this bike could pedal well into the 30-mile-an-hour range if you needed it to. So ghost pedaling definitely won't be an issue because of this chainring. And speaking of pedaling, as you guys know, this bike has a torque sensor. I know it is a little bit dirty down there, but if you're into that kind of thing, this is going to give you a little bit more efficiency and overall a better pedaling experience. You'll feel better connected with the e-bike itself, and you'll definitely get a lot more exercise on this bike versus a cadence censored bike. So here's what I look like on this bike at 5'10" with an inseam of 29. I could pretty much touch my heels to the ground with my legs fully extended and the seat at that lowest seating position. Standover height is fairly comfortable. Pretty decent suspension travel in the front. Suspension travel in the back, it is on the stiffer side. Barely any movement at all. And remember, this bike is on the lighter side. It feels very light compared to some of these much heavier full-size e-bikes on the market. All right, guys, so those are the specs and components of the Senada Viper Plus. What do you say we get back to the riding part? Turn it on. Here we go. All right, here's our giant hill. We are definitely not going to make it throttle only, but let's see what pedal assist 5 gear 1 can do. Oh yeah. Oh man. Oh, this gearing is very high, and this thing does not have that much power. Oh my God, I almost got stuck. All right, so this bike is interesting because it's geared on the higher side, but it's really kind of made for off-roading, and it does have the torque sensor, so I guess it's not really going to be that good of a hill climber. It's more made for moderate off-roading, not really climbing anything too steep. Moving on. Yeah, so like stuff like this, going through taller grass, bumpy terrain, that's kind of the most I would probably expect this bike to handle.
And now I'm going to hand it over to Caleb over at Black Pearl Media, who's about to take the Senada Viper Plus out on Lime Rock Park's racetrack. Let's take a look.
All right, Alex, we are out here in the field. This is Caleb with Black Pearl Media. Now, if you guys don't know about the specs of this bike, I will reference you to Alex. He is the nerd that knows all the specs. We're just gonna race around and just test this out. Test out the handling, the braking. I will say that the seat is not very comfortable, but we are ripping it. The track is packed right now. There we go, kicking it up, 23, 24 miles an hour. Try not to get too crazy, don't want to hurt anybody, hit anybody. What an experience. For a rear hub motor, it sure does pick up really good. It's got some great torque. Cruising around, let's see what we got. We're at full throttle right now. 26 miles an hour. We're just ripping it, 27. 28, can we get 29? Looks like we're gonna be staying pinned at 28. See how we do at the hill climb. There's a big hill coming up. There we go. Full throttle coming around. Maybe we'll get air, I don't know. There's a very steep hill down to 20, 19, 18, 17, 16 with momentum, not too bad. This is so much fun. Being out on the track after hours is pretty cool. We're about to go down the big downhill, see how we do. Big old group of people. This hill is ridiculous. Probably won't go full speed because there's people around. Yeah, I don't want to get anybody caught up in this. There's a kid here, so we got to be careful. Testing the brakes out here. That's good stuff. Really good feel on the brakes. Coming out to the straightaway. Let's see what we can do on the straightaway. There's a lot of people out, so we got to be careful. There we go. On the straightaway at this time. Here we go. There we go. Full. We'll get down low. 28, 27.5, 27.6. We're just ripping it down the straightaway at Lime Rock. Classic racetrack. I will say that this bike is a lot of fun to ride. I will say that the grips are very comfortable. Speed is enough. It could be faster for sure, but for a rear hub motor, not too bad. Torque is really good. Did I already say the seat is uncomfortable? Because the seat is really uncomfortable. But you can upgrade that. I'm sure Alex has a code, so why don't you go ahead and check that out for a discount, and it helps support his channel. I'll send this back to you now, Alex. Take care, bro. You never feel like I'm alive.
Now entering the sidewalk of doom. See how this bike does. The rear suspension, it does move a little bit, and I guess it does help a tiny bit as well. But it's nothing to write home about. Feels better than a hardtail. That's where we'll keep it. And at least I've got the fat tires as well to help out. We're at 4 out of 5 battery bars. This road does flatten out in the middle, and we're still hitting our top speed. About 30 miles an hour. Let's do another brake test now that I've bedded the brakes in a little bit. So from 20 miles an hour, here we go. It still does the same thing where the front wheel jumps up and down a little bit, and the back obviously locks up. It is what it is. If I were Senada, I would definitely throw on some bigger disc brake rotors up front. The handlebar grips, I do like how they are ergonomic styled, so I can rest my hands on the handlebars. Although, I don't know if this bike is geared really for hardcore off-roading, for as hardcore as this bike can handle. And if that were the case, I would prefer some locking handlebar grips, because these do have a little bit of twist in them, and I wouldn't want the ergonomic style either. The brake levers on these brakes are very long, and they do stick out quite a bit. That is somewhat adjustable with these little knobs right here. And I am kind of growing to like the nubs at the end with the holes in them, because your fingers kind of push up against it, and you get a better overall brake lever feel. So I do like that. I still don't know what those holes are for. The seat is decently comfortable. Not too squishy. It's not a lazy boy bicycle seat, but it's not a super hardcore and hard aggressive mountain bike seat either. This style shifter, which is on a lot of different e-bikes nowadays, and the half twist throttle is my favorite setup, because even with the top thumb trigger of this shifter, it's still out of the way of the twist throttle right here, whereas a trigger shifter would be getting in the way. Just my own personal preference. That's kind of what I like. Let's talk about the electronics on this bike. So the display is nice and simple. Colored display, black background, very easy to look at. Big, bright, beautiful numbers. Simple controls over here. Simple headlight button and horn button underneath. The horn is very loud. Barely any throttle delay whatsoever. I do like that. You feel better connected with the bike. Although some might say it is safer to have some delay, it doesn't feel all that great when you're riding the bike around. Yeah, just a tiny delay. Seating position is more on the aggressive side. However, Senada does also sell a handlebar stem riser to give you a more upright ride if that's something that you're interested in. But out of the box, it is on the more aggressive side, so you will have a bit of a lean forwards on this bike. Let's talk about the pedaling experience. So if you guys aren't familiar with a torque sensor, essentially what it does is it senses how hard you're pushing into the pedals. No matter how fast the pedals are moving, all it cares about is how hard you're pushing into the pedal. So right now, I'm on pedal assist 4. I'm barely pushing, but if I push harder, it does go a little faster, but primarily I feel the power start to ramp up. And so when you're pedaling this bike, it will force you to exercise if you want to be going at a decent speed. If you want to exercise less, all you do is bring it to a higher pedal assist number. And what that'll do is simply ramp up the power more as you push down a certain amount into each pedal stroke. And if you keep it at pedal assist 1, if you want to get any kind of power, you really got to push down hard. The throttle, however, is dictated by where the pedal assist levels are. So for example, pedal assist to level 1, this is how much speed we're getting. 7, 8 miles an hour, somewhere on there. Level 2, going a little bit faster. Looks like we're hitting 12. Level 3, we'll say 18, 19 miles an hour for level 3. Level 4 will get us to about 25, 26. And then, of course, level 5 gives you full power from the throttle. Brings you up to that 30, 31 mile an hour range. Final thoughts on the Senada Viper Plus. Who is this bike good for? If you're going to be doing mostly moderate off-roading, I think this bike might be okay. I do wish the rear suspension did have more travel in it. It's almost as if it's a hardtail. It does work, I do feel it working, but not all that much. So simplifying the entire bike and just making it a hardtail would make it cheaper and feel almost the same. The power on this bike is solid. It's actually faster than most other bikes at 48 volts. A lot of these 48 volt bikes, they top out maybe at like 28, sometimes even less. This one gets to 30, 31 miles an hour, so that's pretty good. Pretty good battery life, 20 amp hours, 48 volts. That's, I think, what, 960 watt hours? That's solid. And it's not too much. It's not going to give you a whole ton of battery, even though a lot of you guys might think that's great, more battery, better. Remember, batteries are very heavy, and they are the most expensive part of an e-bike. So if you get bigger battery, it's going to add more cost and a lot more weight. And thankfully, this bike is on the lighter side for a full-size bike, in my opinion. It feels nice and maneuverable and lightweight for its size. The gearing on this bike is on the higher side, so you're not going to be doing any kind of crazy hill climbing on this bike, especially because it's not the most powerful motor, so that motor is not going to help you all that much. But if you're doing a mix of low-intensity off-roading and then you jump on the road and you want to go 30 miles an hour and still be able to add your own power into the bike, the gearing is going to be perfect for you. Especially because of that torque sensor, you're going to get a great pedal feel from this bike. As far as brakes go, I would like to see at least 180 millimeter rotors in the front. I think dual piston calipers are okay still with an e-bike of this weight. However, guys, remember, the bigger the wheel, the less power those brakes have, just because of the way leverage works. So ideally, 180 millimeter rotors at least, maybe even with quad piston calipers up front, would help this bike a lot for stopping power. It does stop. It's not like you're gonna fly into a wall, but I have felt better brakes before on similarly priced e-bikes. This bike comes in black and red, and in my opinion, this cooler looking lime green and black color. Check out the website. It's going to be listed in the description below, along with any coupon codes or discounts that I might be able to offer. And using that link to purchase anything from Senada's website will help this channel at no extra cost to you. And for those of you guys that are using my links, thank you very much. I really do appreciate your support. Feel free to check out some of the accessories I have listed in the description as well. And let me know what you think about the Senada
Viper
Plus. This full-size torque sensing, full suspension, 20 amp hour, 48 volt e-bike. Leave your comments below. Is this a bike that you would buy or would you pass? That's it for today, folks. Until next time.